We now cross over to number 10 Downing Street, where Prime Minister Liz Truss is set to make a statement any moment now. What we do know is that she is concluding a meeting with the chair of the 1922 Committee of the Backbench Conservatives, Graham Brady, and that is the group that decides whether to call a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. So we know that in the past 24 hours, she has been fighting to save her job as Britain's Prime Minister, and this is after her own lawmakers yesterday called for her to quit, and again today, and this was incensed by a shambolic parliamentary vote and the resignation of her Home Secretary. Of course, this is all coming after a tumultuous time in office with the sacking of Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng just last week over what sent policies that sent the UK pound and of course the British economy into spiral. There she is, Prime Minister Liz Truss, about to address live from number 10 Downing Street.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Prime Minister Liz Truss, soon to be former Prime Minister Liz Truss, as she has tendered her resignation and has confirmed within 1 minute that there will be a leadership election within the next week. She will remain Prime Minister until a successor emerges.
Yep, that's right. So this is following just 44 days in office. This is the second shortest Prime Minister in the UK post-Second World War. And Liz Truss just made this announcement outside Downing Street. And of course, this follows the near complete evaporation of her political authority, which has seen her crash the markets, lose 2 key ministers, and shed the confidence of almost all of her own MPs. So she will be the shortest-serving Prime Minister in UK history ever.
Indeed. Now, Truss's premiership came under renewed pressure after the Home Secretary resigned and a chaotic vote on fracking. More than a dozen Conservative MPs have now publicly called her to step down, and she heeded to that call, that, like you just saw on your screen, with the number growing by the hour. Now, earlier on, we were speaking with Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni, and also we spoke with John Cookson, and they were letting us know that this is a countdown by the hour, not by the day. And we've seen what's just transpired within the hour. Liz Truss has tendered her resignation, and like we mentioned earlier, she will continue to act as Prime Minister until elections take place and a new Prime Minister emerges.
Yep, that's right. And you look at the past 6 years of UK history, and it's eventful to say the least. While both David Cameron and Theresa May resigned over Brexit, then we also saw Boris Johnson pressurized to resign over the COVID crisis and what was bubbling under as an economic crisis at the time. And Liz Truss came just at the crux of it, just at the climax of it. And she was supposed to, I think she was almost set up for failure, because she was supposed to come in as a savior for the British economy, which is a tall order for anybody, especially facing the global crisis that the entire world is experiencing at the moment. However, she appointed Kwasi Kwarteng. We saw all of the measures, the tax incentives, the several drastic changes made to the economy. We saw them fighting about those changes from day one, and she never won the confidence of the people from day one. And here we are. This is how it all culminates in her resignation.
I didn't expect it this soon, but it's happened, and we definitely have Arise chief correspondent John Cookson. He's joining us live right now. John, breaking news. Liz Truss.
Breaking news.
Liz Truss has tendered her resignation. Over to you.
Breaking news, definitely. It's a political earthquake here in the UK. Was it only 44 days ago when I was in Downing Street and watched Liz Truss wander in and declare herself the new Prime Minister, and hey presto, she's gone. Look, it was inevitable. She was never going to last the coming days, because the groundswell of opinion amongst her own party. I mean, she had to go, and it was that meeting that we spoke about half an hour ago with Sir Graham Brady that put the tin lid on it and sealed her fate. And clearly, Graham Brady told her the mood of the party. Well, she has to go. Better to go now, Liz, rather than be dragged kicking and screaming out of Downing Street. So leave with dignity, as she's done. She was obviously very, very downcast when she made that statement. Interestingly, that she said that she'd stay on until a new successor is chosen, and that will be within a week. And we did discuss, did we not? Half an hour ago, that the fact that cabinet ministers might want her to stay on until November the 1st, when the Chancellor's had a chance to put his rescue package into place. But no, it looks like she's ready to go within a week. So who are the runners and riders? Who is the next British Prime Minister? It's just breathtaking stuff, this. Well, top of the heap has to be Rishi Sunak, who, of course, vied to be leader of the party just over, 8 weeks ago now. So he's former Chancellor. Didn't win the race to become leader. So he has to be a front runner. Now, Penny Mordaunt, former Defence Secretary, she did a fantastic performance earlier this week in the House of Commons and really burnished her star. She's got a great rapport with the public, and on the political scene. She can certainly hold the attention of the House of Commons. And then we've got Ben Wallace, the current Defence Secretary. Now, yesterday he was in Washington talking to the Americans about how to react to a possible nuclear attack by Russia on Ukraine. Now, presumably he's heading back to London now. So those are three prominent characters. But can I also mention, because it's been discussed on TV and radio here, the possible return, yes, Boris Johnson. He's been quiet the last few weeks, and what he's been doing is giving after-dinner speeches and earning $200,000 each for these after-dinner speeches. So whether he wants to quit doing that, we'll have to wait and see. However, his great hero was Churchill, and Churchill was very much a man for the time. Cometh the hour, cometh the man, you might say. And Boris might just see this as a way of being the shining knight coming back. But he has a problem, because within the party itself, although he's a vote winner, an election winner, Boris Johnson has many enemies within the party who they basically think that he's not up to the job. So we'll have to see if Boris Johnson comes out of the shadows that he's been keeping himself in for the last few weeks. So I think it's good that the Conservative Party are not putting this out to the membership before, because that took 11 weeks to choose Liz Truss. I mean, it just was an unforgivable move, given the current state of the British economy, to put the country through that. And then in the end, it's not the people of the country who are choosing the next leader of the Labour Party, Conservative Party. It was the Conservative members. I mean, it's good that that's not happening. So the Tories have to sort themselves out in the next week and choose a new leader. I sense that Rishi Sunak might be out in front on this, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
We'll certainly have to wait and see. But what do you think is happening? I mean, I know this is all happening in the moment, but across the floor with the Labour Party, what are your thoughts right now on Keir Starmer's position? Is this a win for Labour? Does this make things easier on the road to general elections whenever they may take place?
Yeah, look, Keir Starmer wants a general election tomorrow, but, and he even talked about that today at the TUC conference in Brighton, but it's not within his gift. The choice of when the general election is the party in power, and currently the party in power is the Conservative Party with an 80-seat majority. So Keir Starmer can talk about general elections, and it boosts his standing with the party and in the country. But as I say, it's not his call at the end of the day. And the Conservatives know that if there was an election tomorrow, according to opinion polls, there will be a landslide in favour of the Labour Party. But it just doesn't work like that. So the timetable seems to be that there'll be a new leader of the Conservative Party, and they will have this financial statement to set the country's finances right, or on the right track, at the end of October. And the Conservatives, they're not going to call for a general election anytime soon. So it may well be in the new year that we might see a general election. And as we discussed before, Keir Starmer might not want the current problems that are facing the government, the cost of living crisis, inflation at 10%, the war in Ukraine. He might not want that. He might want the Conservatives to deal with it and get that out of the way.
Indeed. Now, just yesterday, of course, we were listening to Liz Truss talking about being a fighter. Now she's tendered her resignation. I'm wondering, John, from your perspective, what lessons does the third Prime Minister that UK will be having in the 1 year need to learn from what's happened with his predecessor, or her, or whoever it may be, him, her, whatever?
Well, I think the obvious lesson is never get too comfortable in Downing Street. Now, I've lost your image, so I don't know whether we're still connected. Can you just tell me that we are?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh,
okay, fine.
Okay, great.
Traditionally, new prime ministers go and redecorate Downing Street and make it according to their whims. So basically, leave the decorators out until you've been in office for a few weeks. But look, we are in uncharted waters right now, as far as the British political scene is concerned. We keep being rocked with these earthquakes, and there was another tremor today, and it's not over yet. And for sure, the Labour Party will make great political capital about what's happening and what's going on.
And of course, the great stake is the confidence, the love, and the trust of the British public. Where do you think the British people stand right now? I know people are already fed up, frustrated. It's been a tough time. What mood will this create in the nation?
You make a very good point, and what I would say is this: that sadly the Queen passed away recently, and there was a great outpouring of respect for the concept of the monarch. And here we have again the country in times of crisis. Politically, no one's quite sure what's happening, but yet the faith in the monarchy is obviously very, very strong, and I think people can take comfort from that these here today, gone tomorrow politicians can come and go, and yet the head of King Charles, and we heard Liz Truss mention that she talked to him today, he stays on, and that's a very, very powerful figurehead. The king, the monarch, whoever that is in charge of the legislature, the judiciary, and the Houses of Parliament and Commons. So he's ahead of these three branches of government. And the monarchy goes on. So I think the British people showed their respect for the Queen recently on a grand scale. So, you have that. I think the British people's faith in British politicians is probably at an all-time low. I think the quality of the politicians that we've been saddled with over the last few years has been desperately poor. I mean, one thinks of where are the Tony Blairs, where are the Macmillans, where are the Thatchers and the other great leaders of the country. They're just not there anymore. We have these ineffectual people who come along. I mean, Liz Truss, bless her heart, she wasn't the greatest at the dispatch box in the House of Commons. She didn't really connect with the ordinary people, and people would think that she's not quite up to the job. She's not in the tradition of great British prime ministers, and that they are swept aside ultimately. So we'll have to wait and see who's in charge of the Conservative Party and becomes the next British Prime Minister, be it Penny Mordaunt, Rishi Sunak, or Ben Wallace, or even Johnson, of course.
Well, John, the reactions have, started trickling in. Of course, we know that the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, has demanded a general election now based on that announcement. And in terms of how the markets are reacting, we see that it was a muted response, basically. The pound rose initially to the immediate aftermath of the statement before settling back to around $1.12. What more reactions do you think we're going to see sooner rather than later?
Well, the markets are steady, and the reason why they're steady is because they know that a new budget is coming at the end of this month from the new Chancellor, and he's already outlined that he will be taking steps which will give the markets great comfort, and there will be spending cuts in the pipeline, and it's away from the sort of Mickey Mouse economics that Truss was propounding. So the markets will generally be showing their satisfaction with the way things are going now. Whether they'll feel the same about a Labour government, we just don't know. But other reaction will come. There'll be tributes, of course, to Truss from her supporters. But the new leader of the party, when they're elected within a week, will have to make sure that they don't make the same mistake as Liz Truss. And the big mistake that she made was to surround herself with her pals and her best buddies, if you like. And the great rule of politics and indeed life is keep your enemies close if you can. So she has to draw in, or he has to draw in, people from all elements of the party, the right, the left, the centre. So not to make the same mistake as Liz Truss, because she just surrounded herself with yes men and yes women. So that's another lesson. And to go back to Starmer, yes, as I said, he can call for general elections, but it's not within his gift. Now, the British Constitution is unwritten, as you know, and it is conceivable that the new party leader, the new Prime Minister, might agree to call a general election, but the Conservatives are now going to win this stage of the proceedings, and they don't want to hand Labour a landslide. So again, I say a general election in the immediate future is not very likely.
All right. Well, there we have it. 44 days after coming into office, 10 of which were suspended by the death of the Queen. This marks the end of Liz Truss's journey as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Thank you, John Cookson, Arise Chief Correspondent, for sharing your insight on this breaking news.